What's going on, everybody? My name is Rico. Welcome back to my channel. For those of you that are new here, my channel is about vlogs, series and tutorials. And in this episode I'm going to edit a picture that Radish Kumar has sent me. It's a picture of a cityscape. He asked me to help him out with the picture and I hope you guys like it. And here's the image Radish Kumar asked me to edit. He had a very specific question, which was explain the module selection based on different image types. He asked me if I could explain that in my video. This is a very dark image, so I felt like I wanted to bring out the lights. I wanted to make sure that the entire image became a little bit more bright. I also noticed a spot over here. Which I won't go into right now. I won't address it because we're going to crop this image to a different ratio. And the thing about this image is that it's not really lined out properly. Let me show you guys what I mean. So if I open up the crop and rotate module and make sure that the guides are set to the rules of thirds. These are the rules of thirds, and if you want to have a perfectly aligned image, make sure that your subject is on this line, or is on this line, or is in the middle of the square right here. This image has none of those except this building maybe. So we're going to address that in a minute. First let me close down the crop and rotate module. Let me show you guys what I've made from this image. So I've already taken a snapshot by hitting the snapshot button after I selected the final layer. And if I activate it, I can show you guys what the end result is by dragging this point to the right. And here we have the final image. It looks completely different. It's a lot more bright. The lights are a lot more bright. The reflection on the water is as well. Now let me show you guys again. So here's the original, very dark, not really centered out properly. And this is what I've made from it. So let's start with this tutorial. I'm going to deselect the snapshot. I'm going to put this on original, compress the history stack, and now everything that I've done is gone. I gotta start all over. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up the demosaic one and I'm going to put it on a maze. I'm going to close that one down and I'm going to activate the chromatic aberrations module. The chromatic aberrations module makes sure that the purple or green fringes on the edges are now gone. So if I deselect it, there might be some distortions over here. And if I activate it, the distortions are now gone. Now let me go back to fit the screen. And let's just crop and rotate this image. So for that, I'm going to open up the crop and rotate. I'm going to activate it. And let's put it on 1920 by 1080. Because that's the aspect that I want to use. And I'm going to make sure that this is in the middle. So I have to drag this inwards. I'm going to make sure that here's something on the hotel. I want to make sure that that stays intact, that word. We're going to place the building over here. And I want to get rid of this ledge as well. A good photo to me is something that has something in the foreground, something in the middle, which is the subject, and then something in the far distance. But for this image, I'm going to crop it out completely. Let's see. Now we've removed the hotel entirely on the left side. I don't think that's a big deal. Maybe I can make this a little bit bigger. There you go. Now the line is on this building. Let me double click it. And that looks a lot better. We're still not done because the image is a little bit crooked. So I want to change the angle. And for that, what you can do is you can use a keystone. Put it on horizontal. And then place this on the line that you want to be horizontal. So let me put it like this because this should be horizontal. Let me double click the OK button. And now the image is centered out. And that looks a lot better if you ask me. I want to reframe it a little bit. So for that, I'm going to the aspect again. Just to make sure that I can change it a little bit. To drag it around. Because I want a little bit more water to be in the image. There you go. And that's fine. I like the way how this looks. Now let's move on to the next one. This image is very purple-like. This has to do with the fact that this image was probably shot during a sunset. So it's very magenta. We've got a little bit of blue over here as well, I think. So for that, I decided to use the color contrast module. And you can change the white balance as well, but I think this is a little bit more easy. Because I want to decrease the magenta in this image, I have to pull this slider to the left. And now you see that the image is changing. There's less magenta in the image. And I want to decrease the blues and I want to increase the yellows. So I'm moving this to the right just to warm up the image. And I think that looks pretty fine. I'm going to close this one down. And what I'm going to do is I want to straighten out this building. So I'm going to use the crop and rotate module again. I'm going to change this a little bit. So I'm going to put this on vertical. I'm going to place this on the building. And this as well. There we go. And then this side as well. Double click it. And that already looks a lot better. Now I just want to change the overall exposure of this image, and you can do so by dragging this point to the right, or you can go to the exposure module. So let's open that one up. I'm not going to use a mask or anything with this module. I'm just going to drag this to the right to brighten up the image a fair bit. And that looks pretty fine. That might be a little bit too much, so let's go to 1.3. It's a little bit better. Don't worry about the noise, we're going to address that later on. And I want to increase the black point as well, so let me scroll the mouse wheel button away from me just a little bit. There you go, that's just enough to make sure that this hits the left side of the histogram. And the next module that we're going to use is the low pass module. You can do this with the shadows and highlights module as well, but I like to use the low pass module because it gives me a little bit more options. So I'm going to increase the radius by a fair bit. There you go. Going to put the contrast on 0, I'm going to put the saturation on 0, and I'm going to uniformly, so I can address the blend mode. And I want to change the blend mode from normal to overlay. So now we get to see the image again, and I want to decrease the contrast to brighten up the image. So we're brightening up the shadows right now. I'm going to increase the brightness overall of this image, just to make it even more lighter. I'm going to keep the saturation as is because this is already a very colorful picture. So let's close that one down and let's go to the tone curve module. And this is where the magic will happen. So for this I want to use a drawn mask. So let me scroll down and I'm going to use a brush. And if you guys would like to know what I'm going to do with this brush is I'm going to decrease the size by a lot. I'm going to make it really small. I'm going to change it to 100%. I'm going to drag it to the right. And I want to target these lights. I want to target the reflection as well. So let me drop down the size of the brush. Let me just paint over it. I'm going to paint over this as well. I'm going to do the same thing with the reflections on the water. But the difference is I'm going to increase the brush. I'm going to increase the feather size by hitting the shift and then scrolling the mouse wheel button away from me. Now I'm just going to brush over the water. And I'm going to do that again. Just following the reflections. And one which goes all the way down. There you go. I'm going to do the same over here. So one straight line. And then one small line like this. And then another one on the other side. Like that. So now this is the area where the brushes are being applied. I want to change more lights in this image. I'm not going to change these lights. I will be changing this light. So once again, hit the control, click the brush. Let's decrease the size of the brush. There you go. I want to change these lights as well. So I'm going to brush over this. Make sure that you get the right size. Now let's drag it to the left. And now I want to brighten up this boulevard as well. So I'm going to hit the control, hit the brush again. I'm going to increase the brush size in this case. I'm just going to paint over the boulevard. You don't have to be very precise in this image, but it's just to give you guys an idea what's going to happen. So now what we've done is we've added a mask to this image, and if we're going to work with the tone curve, only those areas will be affected. In this case, I know that the colors are usually in the midtones because here are the shadows, here are the highlights. So these colors are all in the midtones. So I'm going to drag this point in the middle upwards a little bit to increase it, maybe even more. And you see a halo effect. Let me show you guys by deselecting this symbol right here. And now it has changed the water a little bit. Let me show you guys before and after. So I'm going to click this. Now you see that this is gone. I'm going to activate it. Now you see that it's back. So it's got a small halo, and we're going to address that by just clicking this yellow symbol right here to see what we're doing. And we're going to increase the feathering by quite a bit, maybe a little bit less. There you go. Now let me select this yellow button again. And now you see that the halo is gone, but the effect is still here. So once again, let me show you guys before. This is the before. And let me show you guys an after. There you go. So now this is really popping. The next thing that I want to do is I want to use another tone curve, and I want to use it in the middle. So for that, I'm going to click this little symbol right here. And we're going to click new instance. So we've got another tone curve, which we can tell by the tone curve 1. And we have used the regular tone curve a minute ago. And I want to use another mask. So I'm going to use a drawn mask. Scroll down a little bit. I'm going to use an ellipse. Reason being is because I can change the angle. And it's got 4 points. So I can decide how big it's going to be. I'm going to click this point, move it inwards a little bit. I'm going to hold the control. I'm just going to make sure that this all lines up. Now let me increase the size. There you go. Let me increase the width as well. Going to make sure that this is set to that. I want to decrease the feathering a little bit because I want to put the emphasis on the middle of the image. And now all I got to do is pull this one up by quite a bit. And this looks very artificial. Let me deselect that. So you can definitely tell where the mask has been applied. But if we're going to feather that one, now you can't tell anymore. Maybe feather it out a little bit, maybe blur it out a little bit as well, just to make it blend more in with the image. So I kind of like how that's starting to look. So let me close this one down and let's move on to the next one, which is the vibrance one. And the vibrance module will make the image pop a little bit. So let's put that on 100% to really make the image stand out. Let's close that one down, and I want to sharpen the image as well. So for that, I'm going to activate the sharpen module. I'm not going to change the standard worth, so I'm going to keep the radius on 2. I'm going to keep the amount on 0.5 because I just want it to be sharpened up a little bit. And now I want to address the colors because I really want to make the image pop. So for that, I'm going to use the Velvia module. I'm going to activate it, and I'm not going to change the worths or whatever because you really saw a huge difference in the colors. Let me show you guys it before, so I'm going to deselect it. So here's the image without the Velvia module applied, and now let's apply it. Here's the image with the Velvia module applied. The Velvia module is kind of like a module that resembles a film type of look. And now what I want to do is I want to frame the image. So for that, I'm going to activate the framing. And you can change the border size, you can change the orientation, the horizontal position, vertical position. You can change the border color or the frame color as well. I like to keep it as is. Reason being is because if you use a white background, you will see how this image looks on Instagram because the background of Instagram is white. So this way you can tell if the image is really standing out. In my opinion, it's really standing out on the white. So I like how this looks. I'm going to keep it as is. Another thing that I want to do is I want to use the lens correction module. The reason why I'm using the lens correction module at the end is because if you use it early on, you will change the dynamics of the image. And if you're using a mask, sometimes things can get curved and stuff like that. So always make sure to apply the lens correction module at the end of your edit. So let's just open it. And now you see that this was shot with a Canon EOS 80D with a Canon EF 11 to 24mm f4L USM lens. Let's see if we can find it in the list. So Canon, it was an 11 to 24mm. So let's see if we can find that one, which I can't. So I'm going to see if a different one works. So let's use the 10 to 22mm. And they have straightened out the image as well. So I'm perfectly fine with how that looks. Let me close that one down. And now what we need to do is we need to address the noise because the noise in this image is ridiculous, so that you can use a low ISO which prevents noise in your image. But since we've got noise right now, we need to address it, and for that we're going to use the denoise module. The denoise module has a couple of presets, and look here, you can tell that it found a match for ISO 1000. That's the profile for this image. And it's got two presets. One is for the chroma, used on first instance, and the second one is luma, used on the second instance. Now watch what happens to this noise. So I'm going to use the first instance, and then I'm going to click this little symbol. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to change it to the second one, and that has counteracted the noise. So let me show you guys before and after. So here's the lens correction module. A lot of noise in this image, and now let's use the last one. And now the noise is a lot less. Let's see if we can do that again. So I'm going to duplicate this instance, and then I'm going to duplicate this instance. And now the denoise module has been applied twice. So here's a before. Here's after the first time that we've used a denoise module. And now let's click this one. This is the second time after we've used a denoise module. Now let's go back to fit the screen. And this is how the image looks right now. I think this looks absolutely gorgeous. Let me take a snapshot real quick. I'm going to show you guys before and after. I'm going to click this one. I'm going to click the original one. And here's the original one again with this spot over here. It's very dark, there's no detail, the lights aren't popping, you can barely see the middle. Now let's drag it to the right to reveal you guys the final image. And there you go. What a difference. And that's it. I hope you guys like it. Let me know in the comment section down below. I would love to hear your thoughts. I'd love for you guys to let me know what I can do to up my production quality of these videos as well. So if you have any suggestions, please let them know in the comment section or send me an email. And for this week, I guess there's just one more thing left for me to say, which is make love to the like button. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Hit that bell button to be the first to be notified when I drop in a video. And until next time, doei!